if you want to go for a more 80s authentic sound, there's a couple of things that you can do in contrast a contemporary modern sound. One of them, the use of sidechain. In the 80s, sidechain compression on everything wasn't available as it is today. So forget about sidechain compression. Don't compress your bass, don't compress your pads, don't sidechain compress anything. Forget about it. And find ways of creating the arrangement and giving the arrangement excitement via other tools or via other techniques. So that's one thing. The other thing, if you listen to a lot of like the 80s pop from back in the day, like from Madonna to Prince, Michael Jackson, Belinda Carlisle, and even the synth pop acts from the 80s, the level of the bass and the kick were very different than how we're used to setting them today. The bass in the 80s wasn't as prevalent or as loud as it is today. In most of those tracks, Madonna, Prince, you name it, whatever, the bass was mostly adequate or weak, right? So it's not like this super huge bass. So that's one thing. If you want to create music that sounds kind of like the 80s, your bass cannot be the lead instrument or super present. The same with the kick. Of course, mileage varies, but the kick in most of those productions wasn't the predominant sound, not even the loudest sound in the drum kit. Typically, the snare would always be louder than the kick. And again, the kick would sometimes be more felt than heard, and it wasn't as big and huge as techno house and synth pop that we hear on Spotify or wherever else. Right. So that mixing technique was is different.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think of the song "Drive" by the Cars. I can't remember how loud the kick is, but I just remember that snare is huge.
You can't almost hear it. And also, have you listened to the song by, I'm just forgetting his name, the guy from the Eagles, drummer Don Henley, "The Boys of Summer"? Go listen to that track now, and you'll hear how weak the drums are. Like the loudest element is the tambourine, the kick, and the snare. They sound Lin to me, or some other classic drum machine. They're
cowbell.
Super weak, like super low in the mix. Like the kick and the snare don't drive anything. The guitars are super loud, right? So it's like this mix where you have loud guitars, you have the vocals just a little bit beneath and sometimes behind, and the drums are almost non-existent. So for me, like looking at it on paper, it sounds like a terrible mix. And when I listen to it intently and focus on the elements, to me, it's like if I were to mix that today, the balance of the drums for me would have been higher with more punch and more energy. This is a really bad mix, right? Just thinking about it. But then that song is one of the biggest songs that Don Henley ever had. I will never have a song that's going to be as popular as that one. So what's the deal with that, right? So how do we swallow that pill? Because ultimately, a lot of the aspects that we as producers, songwriters, mixers, whatever, like to really think about and lose sleep over, ultimately, they don't matter, right? What matters is that the track or the song paint a picture, communicate an emotion, and take the listener on a ride. And that doesn't matter unless there are severe flaws in the arrangement, composition, and mixing process. A lot of quirky decisions or decisions that could have been done better at some other time, ultimately, they don't matter, because when you listen to that track, Boys of Summer, it takes you somewhere, like you feel this energy, like this melancholy vibe, like, yeah, you want the girl and you're trying to fight for her. And you forget about all those technical aspects that I mentioned, and all of that goes into the background, and it doesn't matter anymore.
If you found this video helpful, be sure to blow up that like button like you're Luke Skywalker attacking the Death Star.
The same as, have you watched the movie Lost in Translation with Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson?
No.
Well, there's this very famous band in the 80s, the Jesus and the Mary Chain, and they have a track, one of their most known tracks, it's called something like Honey. I just forgot the name. And if you go listen to that on Spotify, YouTube, or whatever, like a lot of tracks, alternative rock or pop tracks from the 80s and 90s, I would say the mix is terrible, super harsh. The guitars, they sound like they were plugged directly into the mixing desk, and so washed and reverb. But you know, like really, if you were to mix that today, you would say, yeah, this really needs a complete remix. But again, the experience of listening to that track, the emotion that comes through it, it takes you to a certain place that it goes beyond the technical aspects, right? So that's, I don't remember anymore what the question was, but certainly that's the thing that we need to go for as producers and songwriters is, yeah, we need to get our chops to a certain level, but then it's about what are we trying to communicate and how we can do that, right? Go beyond the technical stuff and how we can connect to how we can make the listener connect with the experience that we're trying to present.
Right. Yeah. So when we get down to it, really the songwriting and the arrangement, that's like 80% of what makes a great song. And then the production side of things is just kind of 20%. So if it's a really great song, you don't really notice the production, or at least that casual listener doesn't. They just know it sounds good. It's a good song. So yeah, you don't want your production, I guess, to be distracting, but you also want to enhance the actual arrangement, the songwriting elements that are there.
Be sure to download my free Synthwave sample pack in the description. Not only does this contain over 100 80s drum and effects samples, but it also includes my Synthwave sound design cookbook, which includes step-by-step recipes for creating your own synthwave sounds. And it includes my Synthwave mixing cheat sheet, which breaks down specific mixing techniques you can use to get that retro synthwave sound every single time. Again, this is all free in the description below, or you can go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/starter pack. And if you want more help creating synthwave music, be sure to click the video playing on the screen right now, as this includes my full in-depth tutorial on creating a synthwave song from start to finish. With that, have an awesome day and keep creating.